Hey everyone, welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today I finally have a bit more time to spend with the all-new 2026 Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. If you've been subscribed or seen some of my other videos, then you'll know I was one of the very first people here in the US to post any sort of in-person video with the Palisade Hybrid, driving it for the very first time very early this month, in the month of October. And now that a few of these have arrived and are now in stock, available for purchase, I can spend basically an unlimited amount of time getting behind the wheel, driving it, and just seeing what some of the key differences are in my overall impressions of this vehicle versus the V6 and the hybrid. Now, of course, they drive quite differently, so stay tuned later in this video for some of my more in-depth driving impressions and just some key, items I'm picking up on and discussing with the all-new 2027 Kia Telluride, not too far off in the distant future, and just a bunch of small things like that to understand better what might be the best difference for you, whether it's the V6 or this 2.5 liter turbo behind me. And I also did do a little bit of cold weather warm-up testing with this exact vehicle early this morning as it got down into the mid 30s. So I wanted to see how quickly this vehicle would warm up sitting outside overnight. And not to break anything to you, but it did fine. It was absolutely fantastic. Today you join me in the 2026 Palisade Hybrid Calligraphy, and this is a cold start on this particular vehicle. It was roughly 36 degrees last night, not quite cold enough to get frost on the windshields, but it has either since melted or just barely stayed actual liquid. And I basically wanted to take this vehicle from a cold start, cold situation and see how quickly it was able to warm up in near freezing conditions. I also want to spend a little bit more time, obviously, behind the wheel of this vehicle to give you guys a better understanding and my impressions as to how the hybrid drives versus the V6. We're just going to go ahead and put it on. I want to do 72 degrees, automatic fan speed, sync both sides here. We'll go ahead and turn the heated seats on because it is necessary, as well as the heated steering wheel. That is one thing I absolutely wish Hyundai would implement inside of their vehicles. I don't even think Genesis does at this point, is automatic seat climate. If you guys seen some other content, then you'll know automatic seat climate is absolutely a must in some of these luxury vehicles, I think, just because it makes the everyday daily life easier. Now, one thing to note is it did kick on the 2.5 liter four-cylinder fairly quick after startup. It was not initially on, it started in fully electric, but did kick on about, a few seconds after startup, likely for the HVAC and getting a little bit of heat built up in the system. Now, I'm not going to do a full acceleration test because obviously the engine is cold and things like that, but we'll go ahead and give it a little bit of throttle here just to see what the pickup and acceleration's like. Very, very effortless, not a problem when you combine the electric motors. Don't feel any warm air coming out of the floor quite yet. Actually, it is starting to come out just now. Now, just to give you guys a refresher, or in case this is the first Palisade Hybrid video you've clicked on, under the hood of this vehicle, you're going to find a 2.5 liter turbocharged four-cylinder hybrid paired to a 2 electric motor setup and a 6-speed torque converted automatic transmission, producing 329 horsepower and 339 pound-feet of torque. This can be paired to your choice of either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, which is awesome to see that Hyundai has formerly paired a lot of their hybrid systems in their SUVs to solely all-wheel drive. However, in the Santa Fe and the Palisade, now you can get front-wheel drive options for even greater efficiency. So that is one thing that I actually like to test in a lot of the vehicles I either have as a press vehicle or particularly compared to my personal vehicle, which is a 2019 Hyundai Elantra GT N-Line with the 1.6 liter turbo engine, is my personal vehicle takes extremely long and has a hard time maintaining temperature inside the cabin at anything below like 25 degrees or so. It really struggles to warm up, or you have to drive the vehicle a little bit harder than you normally would just to get a little hot air pumping into the cabin. This vehicle and a lot of new Hyundai vehicles, and basically most of the vehicles I've tested on the channel, there has been a couple exceptions to that, do warm up very quickly and have a good thermal management system with the thermostat, circulates the coolant or the coolant loops in the way they've designed them. Just spending a little bit of time here behind the wheel, you can definitely hear the 2.5 liter turbo engine and just its slightly different tone and noise levels inside the cabin. It's not bad whatsoever. I would say it's just as quiet as that of the V6, especially when you're cruising. But when you start to put your foot down into it, You do hear a little bit of a buzzy 4-cylinder, but honestly, it's really not that bad, and certainly worth the additional power of the system versus that of the V6. And that's another thing I wanted to bring up, actually, is that's been a common theme. I've been fortunate enough to actually talk to a couple people who have either taken delivery of a Palisade Hybrid or have a deposit down on an incoming Palisade Hybrid. And the common theme amongst everybody is very exciting and positive impressions of this vehicle. There's been a number of reviews out there, of course, mostly on the V6 at this point, but there have been several reviewers and media out there who have gotten their hands on a hybrid at a dealership level. And I think the common consensus, I have to talk to a few other people, but the common consensus that I'm hearing is that the hybrid is going to be the way to go in this new generation Palisade. And recently, as of the last couple days, Kia has just revealed that the Telluride will be a 2027 model year vehicle, and full details will be revealed, I think, on November 10th, from what I'm hearing on some media and journalists. Unfortunately, I was not invited to that particular event or to get additional details on that vehicle, so as of right now, I won't be able to provide you the latest and greatest information, but I assume the Telluride will be available with the same powertrains as the Palisade, which is the V6 and the 2.5-liter turbo hybrid system. It will be interesting to see if they do anything differently between these two sibling vehicles that ride on basically the same platform, share a lot of the same features, options, and amenities. I did notice, though, with the Telluride, it has flush-mounted power retractable door handles, which is totally different than the Palisade. I prefer traditional door handles on a vehicle like this, so interesting to see how the Tellurides operate and function on a daily basis. But going back here to the Palisade Hybrid, just at that stop around the corner getting onto this road, it did shut off the gas engine for hybrid electric operation. So that means the engine is up to operating temperature enough so that it can do the stop-start functionality and provide still HVAC functions here on the interior. So that was only about 5 minutes worth of warm-up time and driving before that happened, if that. Very similar to that of the V6 videos I've created. There's not too much different in terms of how these two vehicles drives outside of fuel economy, fuel efficiency, and obviously the horsepower and torque figures and all of the benefits you're getting in this vehicle, which, like I said, to me is worth the $2,000 price differential between a gas and a hybrid. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of, where I'm at in my impressions of that is. But like I said, it will be interesting to compare the Kia Telluride here. I'm not sure we're going to have full pricing in a month, given it is a 2027 model year vehicle, likely going to be available like Q1, Q2 next year. It'll be interesting to see also if the Kia Telluride is assembled here in the United States, and if so, which powertrains, because as we know, the Palisade continues to be assembled solely in Korea. So, both variants of this vehicle are assembled in Korea, as was the last generation, where the Kia Telluride was assembled fully here in the United States, down in Georgia. So if Kia actually manages to do both the V6 and the hybrid in Georgia, or maybe the Palisade Hybrid is going to start coming out of the Meta plant, who really knows? It will be interesting to learn more details as far as that and availability. I mean, I think there's actually a good amount of usable power from the two electric motor setup that the system has. One is primarily a motor generator. One is more of, the powertrain and what powers the actual vehicle. But yeah, you have plenty of power to do 30, 35, even maybe upwards of 40 miles an hour on a flat, smooth surface at speeds like this, which is, exactly what you'd want from a hybrid, to be able to drive it and really get all the efficiency you can. So now that the engine is fully warmed up, I do want to go ahead and test out sport mode, give it an acceleration test here. So we'll go ahead and turn onto this road here, and we'll do full throttle. Ooh, a little bit of wheel slip there. Yeah, this thing definitely has a good amount more power than the V6. And maybe I'll have to do an acceleration test with the two engines and powertrains back to back, just to give you guys an idea just how much quicker this one is. But I would not doubt you're easily shaving a second to a second and a half off of the 0-60 time from the V6 to this vehicle, even with the additional weight, just because you have a lot more low-end torque out of not only the turbo engine, but also the electric system, and especially when you compare the two systems together. Now, putting my foot down into the brake there, you can certainly feel the regen from the electric motors, and I like the way that Hyundai's blended the friction brakes and the regenerative braking between the two. Go ahead and put it back into eco mode here. Go ahead and turn on the highway drive assist 2. HDA immediately locks in. We have the lane centering, lane follow assist, lane change assist is even enabled, which we can demonstrate the lane change assist right here. Once my hand on the steering wheel, it's doing it by itself. A little bit late there, but it does want you to keep your hands on the steering wheel. So there you can see it completed it. Not the most effortless version of lane change that I've ever done inside a Hyundai or Genesis or Kia product with this particular system, but it did it. So while we're in here obviously taking a cruise, I'm going to go ahead and try out the Ergo Motion driver's seat. And I have to say, immediately with the Ergo Motion seat in the Palisades versus the Ioniq 9 vehicles, this seat feels more comfortable and more correct than that of the Ioniq 9 Ergo Motion seat. Now, if you've seen in my likes and dislikes with that vehicle, or even my driving review, the Ergo Motion seat in the Ioniq 9, when it is in its off or resting position, no massage turned on, there is like a hump on the bottom of the seat that you feel like you're sitting on, like it's a bubble effect, and it does not provide the most comfortable situation. Now, here with the Palisade, I'm happy to say when it's off or in its resting normal position, it does not feel like a bubble, sensation that you're sitting on. It does not feel like a hump. It feels like a normal, well-appointed, well-upholstered Napa leather seat. So I'm glad that Hyundai either changed something with the Palisade or did something slightly differently with the mechanism or the air bladders inside the seat, because, that really made it so the calligraphy trim level of the Ioniq 9 was not that comfortable to me. Yeah, really, I don't have too much more to say about the Palisade Hybrid other than hopefully I can get one maybe for a week to live with, drive, and review, because this is obviously a vehicle that I've talked about and created many pieces of content here on the channel with so far. And obviously I will do so over time as more information is released, as I learn any more, additional things about this vehicle. But, this is truly one that Hyundai probably should have offered at the time of launch of this next generation Palisade, because the V6 models currently are not selling, I don't think, nearly as well as either Hyundai thought or just people in general thought, with them keeping the V6 option around versus that of the competition, which, as we know, the Chevy Traverse, the Buick Enclave, the Toyota Grand Highlander, vehicles such as that don't even offer a naturally aspirated V6 engine anymore. They've all gone to either, naturally aspirated hybrid 4-cylinders or turbocharged 4-cylinders as their only options. And Hyundai's like, nope, we're going to keep the V6 due to customer demand, customer feedback, everything like that, as well as add a turbocharged 4-cylinder hybrid. So it will be interesting to see what the October sales figures are for the Palisade in general, given that the 2025 models really won't be at all included in those numbers, at least not in a meaningful amount. Because if you guys have been following the Hyundai Palisade news or own a last generation vehicle or whatnot, you've probably heard that there is a stop sale on the last generation new 2025 Palisades that are left on dealership lots, as well as all used and certified pre-owned vehicles on Hyundai lot, because of the seat belt buckle recall. So essentially, there's a very, very small fraction of Palisades in the prior generation, 2020 all the way up through 2025, that the seatbelt buckle may become unlatched during the case of an event or an accident, and thus the seatbelt, obviously doesn't have an anchor point, so it will become untethered and will not function correctly. So I think that was issued prior to October, so really in theory, no Hyundai dealers could sell a 2025 leftover Palisade that they have on the lot So I think all of October's sales figures will be for Palisade and Palisade Hybrid because those have rolled out. And I'm not sure Hyundai's actually going to break them out separately. Regardless, I think it will be interesting to see what the new next generation Palisade is selling like here in just a couple days when they do report those figures, because, you know, from my perspective, the V6 is not doing quite as well as I would have expected. And there's already incentives out there from Hyundai, from dealerships and everything like that, to the tune of, you know, a few $1,000s just about, you know, 6, 8, 10 weeks after the launch of the vehicle, where you can actually get, you know, a very good discount, which was obviously not the case for the last generation Palisade because of COVID, the supply chain issues and everything like that. Basically, those vehicles were impossible to get and have a wide variety and a wide selection in stock until just the last couple years, where, you know, this vehicle, here we are, like I said, just a couple months after launch, and they're widely available in stock. The hybrids are still trickling in. Most of those are pre-sold, although this one is available that I'm driving. That's going to do it here for more of my in-depth driving impressions of the all-new 2026 Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy Hybrid. Of course, I am very curious to check out more of the lower trim levels in this hybrid variant here as they start to roll in, including the SEL Premium, which is just now making its way onto dealership lots, both for the V6 and I believe the hybrid versions as well. I got to see the Titan charcoal exterior color for the very first time just about a couple days ago, and that is nearly identical to Rockwood Green. So I'm not exactly sure why Hyundai named it Titan Charcoal when in reality it's essentially very, very close to Rockwood Green, and that should be a green color, not necessarily a Titan Charcoal. I don't even know what Titan Charcoal means, but Hyundai categorizes it as a gray. It's definitely a green color. Let me know what you guys want to see on Palisade and Palisade Hybrid in terms of content and coverage down in the description below, and of course I will do my best to answer them. And let me know if you've taken delivery of one of the two new Palisades, either with the V6 or the hybrid, and why. I'm always curious to hear your thoughts on that. Huge shout out to everybody who watches the channel who has either purchased one of these vehicles I've said hi to or managed to meet in person. That is absolutely some of the most fulfilling feeling is, you know, people who obviously watch for information or entertainment. I'm not sure I'm that entertaining, but if you watch for information and want to learn more about a particular vehicle and then you end up purchasing it, and I think that's the coolest feeling in the world, and is, you know, a large chunk of why I do this. Of course, I like vehicles. I like, you know, making videos. I like cars, getting to do some of these recent events with other manufacturers, and traveling is epic and awesome, and meeting a ton of people is awesome as well. So all of that adds into the equation, but I really do appreciate you guys watching and supporting the channel and allowing me to get some of these opportunities. Unfortunately, I was not invited to the Palisade Hybrid First Drive event, which is going to be happening, I think, either next week or the following week. So you will see a large chunk of channels covering the Palisade Hybrid and their videos sometime next month. Of course, I've already got my videos out and had you know, some amount of seat time in this vehicle, which I'm driving right now. So really not the end of the world not being invited to that, but I know Palisade is a big vehicle that you guys enjoy watching here on the channel, and unfortunately I was not invited to that national event. But regardless, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. As always, I appreciate continued support. Check out the additional Palisade videos, including trim comparisons, my first drive in the hybrid ever, which was an awesome video. It did very well, got a lot of attention. And with all that being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one. 63 and only EV. How fast can we go? We're going downhill a little bit. 64, boom, kicked on the engine. So 63 miles an hour in fully EV mode, and if we had a little bit more charge on the battery, I have no doubt that we probably could have kept going a few more miles an hour and was driving and only using the electric motors. Oh! This thing's got some get up and go on the shifts. 60. All right, that was a pretty solid run. However, when you're getting off the line, since the engine's not inherently kicked on, there is just a like quarter to half second delay. Okay, so here we are in the same spot with the V6 Calligraphy Palisade. I'm not really going to brake torque it because I don't think that'd be a fair comparison given that this one does brake torque, so it'd likely help it off the line. But we'll just go ahead and do a full throttle off brake and see what the 0 to 60 time here is with the V6. Here we go. $60.